The Front Row Back Row podcast is a show where two grad school buddies discuss physical therapy entrepreneurship. I helped guide a company to an 8-figure exit, and I'm now starting my own mobile company. Brian grew his mobile practice to 4 clinics, and he's now doing $1 million in revenue. Join us as we help you grow your own business. Hello and welcome to the Front Row Back Row podcast. My name is Dr. Owen Campbell, and with me, as always, is Dr. Brian Wolf, and together we are Physio Growth. So if you want to take your business to the next level, make a job an actual business, then you want to check out our mastermind group. It is in the show notes, but just go to physio-growth.com and you can level up your business today. I actually had another coach ask us who's like our ideal person. And I was like, man, we just talk about scaling a lot. And this is what today is going to be about is how do you scale your rep, right? How do you scale your reputation without it just being you meeting to meet every single person at the local, kids book fair, or you're always going out and doing that. I know a lot of PTs are having that problem right now of like, what do I do? Right. How I don't have enough time in the day to keep my business running. How do I get it so that it kind of builds on itself? And we're going to talk today about getting social proof. Obviously, everyone knows about Google reviews, but there's a lot of different ways you can do it. And once people know you can do it, you're a good therapist, or your value is there. That should make the treadmill kind of run for you.
For sure. I mean, I'm excited about this because I think there's a lot. It's a lot simpler than people think about getting reviews and how to do this. So I'm excited to hear this. And it's funny because if I look at websites, like we have fancy ways of doing this that like automate it just because we know that when we scale, it's easy to automate that. But it's also, if you're a single, solopreneur here doing this practice, you can just stick something in front of somebody's face and be like, hey, can you write me a review? And most people will do it.
Let's take that from the beginning, right? So this is what we would coach our directors at our locations when I was in corporate PT about how to get a review, right? So the basics that we would always go through is be okay asking for a review like at the second visit, third visit, first visit, whatever it is. When someone's super jacked up, a lot of PTs think, well, they need to know what the final outcome of their program is to write a full review. No, you want to catch them when, man, you've taken their pain down 50% with your hands, those types of things. So I think if I was to give a first tip, is timing is actually really important with this stuff. And then the second thing we would always say is make it personal, right? And that's very easy to do if you're a solopreneur, you're just starting out, you don't have all these tech bells and whistles that Brian has, you're meeting every single one of your people. They see that you're, I can't make it because I got kids swim class, that type of stuff. You just ask them, hey man, Google reviews super, they help me out a lot. Can you please write one for me? Like this would be great and the thing that I like to tell people is I was able to help you. More people like you will find me if you write me a review, right?
Yeah.
And that's how you help more people like you. So those are the kind of basics of asking for a review is don't always think you got to do it at the end and then make it personal.
Yeah, I actually would think, to your point about not doing it at the end, I actually would, like, for me, I this is going to be a tough analogy, but I literally think of it as like, when a dog poops on the floor, to stop it from pooping on the floor, what is the first thing you do, right? You take the dog and you show them what they did and tell them it's wrong, right? Like that's the negative reinforcement in the moment. It's got to be right there in the moment. Yeah. On the flip side, you go through the positive reinforcement. They go to the bathroom, right? You give them a treat and you're like, good job. So when someone's talking about, oh, I feel so much better, I feel great, like, oh, this is awesome. Do you feel like you're doing a really good job with physical therapy? And like, yeah, this is amazing. This feels great. But like, hey, can you do me a favor? Like while they're on ice, while they're, right there in a second, as they're walking out, can you leave me a Google review real quick? Would you mind doing that if I show you how to do it? Can you give me your phone real fast? And then you actually just like literally go up to that process and write you it. Those are the best Google reviews because in the moment they're there. I'll tell you too, and I'll tell you a story on good stuff and bad stuff. Anytime you have a delay between the time you ask for a Google review and the time the person does it, do realize there are crazy people out there, right? So what ends up happening is people can be vindictive, and I've had bad experience with this also. So if someone's at a really good, I had somebody come up to me the other day and were like, oh, one of your therapists is amazing. I love it. Thank you so much for this practice, for being open. Happy holidays. Thank you so much. And I was like, awesome. You know, it'd be really fantastic. Would you mind like writing us a Google review? Like, could you do that? Have you ever done that? And he even said, he goes, I'm more apt to write bad reviews, but I'm happy to write a good one. Funny enough.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's exactly what I'm asking for. Is like, if you wouldn't mind one, that's amazing. So then hopefully he goes on there. Now I'll tell you what I did wrong is in theory, if I really want that Google review, I should literally say, you know what's the best way? Can we do it right now? Do you mind if like I do it? Because
Yep.
say the guy does the good review right there and then, right?
Hmm.
There is zero chance that it goes sour.
Yep.
What I have done, and on the flip side, I've got a bad experience with it, is if I do give somebody a good experience, I go, just write me a nice Google review, right? And something along those lines. And something goes wrong, which, by the way, in our business,
With
like for
insurance,
us, right,
it almost
it's
always
always insurance. It's always
somebody
some
comes back and
BS
they
about
got a
insurance.
deductible and nobody knew it until they called. Yep.
Exactly. Oh, now what happens is I've made a red flag to that person to
Hmm.
be like, Google reviews are really important for my business. So
Yep.
now this person knows they can kind of bend me over a little bit, right? They know
Yep.
that they can be like, oh, I'm going to just leave a scathing review on the internet. And so that is the one reason on both sides that I would say that doing it right there in the moment is really good, because it's really hard for someone to change a good review if all of
Hmm.
a sudden they've had a bad experience, right?
Yeah.
And very, very, you know, I'm reading some on here where someone's like, "This was a bad experience, this was a good experience, or whatever." You know, there's a lot of stuff, but most of them come down to insurance stuff if they're bad
Well,
experiences or some capacity. So anyway,
and let's talk about too, like some of the ways. So I think that timing it right, making sure that you're getting the timing right of like, hey, you want to write it? Cool. Here's the QR code. Let's do it now, right before you leave or before I put my stuff, whatever it is, right. The other thing that we got to talk about is incentivizing that, right? So obviously, Google does not want you, and we're talking really Google here because I know Yelp is also something that people will use for reviews, but really the king of the hill is Google, right? Um, there's incentivization that you can do. Now, no one's telling you, hey, give everybody $50 cold cash for a positive review, right? But at the same time, you see this happen a lot where, hey, there's a free tumbler for if you show me your Google review, right? Or hey, I'm going to give you this, stretching program that I developed for free. All I need you to do is do a Google review. So that's a line that it will get you a lot of reviews, or it'll kind of incentivize people to do it. But you have to be very, very careful about how you're doing it, right? Because I'm sure if like somebody writes, hey, I got this great Tumblr for writing this, that'll kind of flag for Google. So you can make it a little bit more, you know on steroids, but you do have to be very careful about how you go out and ask for those reviews.
yeah, I think too, to go, the other little idiosyncrasies that you think about, like with Yelp, I know one of the big things that's a pain in the neck is, or even with Google, if someone's never written a Google review ever, and
Yep.
they write you a bunch of people, it writes you nice reviews on Google.
Yeah.
What ends up happening is in that scenario,
Yeah.
people actually it gets flagged, and then people don't. It actually gets taken off, which again,
Yeah.
I also think is ridiculous personally. That being said, it does happen.
Yeah.
It's absolutely happens on Yelp. One of the things that if you give a really good review on Yelp and it's the first review ever given, this to me
Yeah.
is why I think Yelp is also like falling behind Google reviews
Yeah.
personally. Is basically if you give a bad review as your first review, they then see you as a legitimate person on your next review.
Uh-huh.
If you give only a good review on the first one, they see it as an illegitimate one and they delete it, which again, I think is ridiculous, but just know that's what's happening. So one of the little tricks that we've got is, hey, do you use Yelp at all? If someone's like, no, I don't really, be like, you know what? I'm trying to get my Yelp reviews up. If you want to use Yelp, what's a great restaurant that you love around here? Can you rate them can you rate two good restaurants, like two good reviews, and then write me one for physical
Ah.
therapy? That's a little trick too. That being said, obviously now you just made them do more work for
Yeah.
like a
Honestly, I
secondary
would
thing.
I would just bag Yelp, man. Like
Well,
it's just
here
because they did the same thing to us. I had one lady; she wrote 1,000-word essay because she really wanted to make sure that people knew about us because we asked her about it, and then they just hit it right,
I
and it's like awesome.
Yeah, I will say that the thing about it though, on the flip side,
Yeah.
is I don't like ignoring anything, right? Like
Yeah, that's
there's
true.
some value there. Here's the thing, like I actually just look like physical therapy near me in my town, and we have 10 Yelp reviews. We're number 3 on this list, right? There's
Oh
two
wow,
others
yeah.
actually that are funny enough. There's two ahead of us that are actually like they have 5 reviews and 3 reviews, and we have 10, but they're all 5-star reviews. And the other part of it is say you don't get any. The other negative is say some jerk leaves you a 1-star review, and
Yeah.
now you have no reviews except for one negative one. That's not
Yeah.
good. So I
Yeah.
will say, like, you just want to have a little bit of buffer. So to have some people that do that is really, really good.
Yeah.
I
So
think
let's
is a helpful one.
let's talk about what you guys do with Evolution, because I know I have a CRM platform, just a reputation management thing. We've talked about it a little bit here called Go
Mm,
High Level. And that, for me at least, what I will do is I will punch in their cell phone number that they gave me or their email that they gave me, and I'll hit, ask for a review, and it'll send three texts or three emails, and you can change how many you want, but
yeah.
it's taking advantage of the fact that people typically want to review you positively. They just forget. Like, they might get a phone call while they're watching their kids dance recital,
Yep.
or text while they're doing that. And they're like, oh, dude, I definitely want to do that, but it's not the number one priority. And then it auto does it for me. So I know, for me, at least as a solopreneur, that's something within my budget that kind of came with my website and SEO package. But, like, is that, how do you scale it at your size? Like, what are you guys doing
Yeah.
to make sure that you're capitalizing there?
So this is kind of a plug for WebPT, but WebPT has a great software for this. What I like about WebPT and what they do is it's a software called WebPT Reach.
Okay.
WebPT Reach, what's interesting is, and again, we use Go High Level, we use some other CRMs as well. And again, the way you got to look at these things is like they like all these companies range in costs somewhere between 100 to $200, right, per
Yeah.
month. Go High Level is a bit more expensive, but it's also a little more powerful. It can do more
Mhm.
stuff, right? So that one's more on the 300 side. So whatever. That being said, when it comes to something like this, what WebPT Reach does, it reaches out to every single person and creates an automated system that we can
Mhm.
deploy in every single clinic. So why that's awesome is basically it sends out a how's your evaluation? Like, it's funny because I actually like came in as a patient one day and like
Yeah.
actually was like seeing one of our people. And so like it was pretty funny to see like kind of as I like went through the process. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, this is actually really good. It was like it went through an email sequence where like I got emailed all my intake paperwork, right? So it got all that stuff. Then it followed up with me, how was your evaluation? And what's great about this is if it's not a 4 or 5 star out of 5 evaluation, right? I get put in a different funnel. This funnel automatically goes. And so from there, if someone gives me a 4 or 5 star review, fantastic. And it prompts reviews. It prompts the idea of like, give us a review. The good news is all of it's internal.
Hmm.
So if it's all internal, then the next step is they give a review and they say, this is great. This is our internal review. Appreciate it. If you wouldn't mind, would you mind posting this on Google, Yelp, any of the things? That's the next prompt. And then it puts it on there. On the flip side, we get to hear about all the crappy reviews before they happen. The
Yeah.
idea behind why WebT Reach is really powerful in this way is it's a retention tool. So now, guess what? If I have a 0 out of 10 or a 2 out of 10 or a bad experience, one, I can see it in real time, and I can understand it and call that person, understand what's going on, right?
Hmm.
And again, some of these processes are ridiculous. Some of these reviews are hilarious. Some of these good and bad, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we had one that was like, what again? Like some of these are just crazy.
Yeah.
But what my point being is, when you have these reviews and you see them, now you can catch them, and guess what? They don't get prompted into, will you give us a Google review? Will you give us a Yelp review? It's like, no, they
Yeah.
go down a whole nother funnel of like, what can we do to help you? Is there a way that we can fix this? Blah, blah, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so now we can reach out to them and talk to them. It's a great retention tool. So for us, that's a really helpful one. Now, most people, here's the problem that people have to realize: if they had a bad experience and they ghost, or they had a good experience and they ghost, you don't know what the real outcome is. So the
Hmm.
reality is like reaching out, being active, and doing that stuff. You can control that more when you're smaller, but to your point, when you scale, you need CRMs like this that do
Yeah.
this.
And I think even the budget level ones, like WebPT, is a little expensive, but I just signed up for Jane app, and they have something like this. I don't think it's as in depth with the funnels, but it might be actually. Where they do have that, like, kind of internal review process, and then that hopefully stops like an external review. So,
Yep,
um,
exactly. And WebPT Reach is one of those things where like you can also email through that. You can do that kind of stuff. It's great. Like I like
yeah,
that stuff a lot. So it's nice when you have that ability to do that.
yeah.
So,
Cool. All
but
right. Well, I hope this was a helpful podcast for some of those people looking and saying, man, how am I going to get more reviews? I know they are valuable, but God, I just don't have enough time in the day. Hopefully, this has helped you out. As always, if you have questions, just shoot a comment down in the show notes, all that stuff. And then, yeah, Brian, I'm good, man.
Good.
Ready to get out of here?
If anybody ever wants to, if everybody wants help on this kind of stuff and learning more about this
Ah,
stuff,
yes,
again,
the ad.
physio-growth.com. If you want to come check it out, talk to us a little bit, set up a time. If you want to book an appointment and chat with us a little bit one-on-one and learn more if we can actually help your business, because so many people have this idea of like analysis paralysis by analysis where they're taking a look and don't think it can be helped, or they're like, well, my business is different and that's it. Newsflash, it's not different. It's the same exact fucking thing. But not for nothing. There's your explicit filter on there. At the
Every
same
single
time,
time.
exactly. But if you because passion, man, it's passion. At the same time, if you want to help, physio-growth.com, happy to help.
All right. Well,
Now we
yeah.
can close it out on.
I should really stop giving business advice if I forget to advertise my company, right? All right.
Exactly.
All right. See you, buddy.
All right. See you, man.